Welcome to the Victory Club, the show for the everyday athlete who's not chasing medals, but chasing a better life. I'm Rebecca Trulette, a sports and pelvic floor physical therapist, mom, and weekend warrior with a passion for helping you move better, feel stronger, and stay in the game, whatever your game looks like. Each episode, we dive into real-world, no-fluff advice and personal stories on training smart, staying injury-free, and building habits that actually last. Whether you're hitting the gym, the trails, or just trying to keep up with life, this is your space to learn, grow, and win your own kind of victory. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Victory Club podcast. My name's Jeremy. I don't know if I've ever done that in the intro of saying what my name is, but I don't think people really even care about it. Becca, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just adding the sound effects back here on the background, trying to be more lively.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the topic of in between episodes was, do I sound? What was the question? How did you phrase it?
I think I asked if I sounded flat.
Yeah, I didn't really know how to answer that in a husbandly way, other than saying that you have this voice. You know, I've been around it long enough of hearing it, of when you answer the phone or you order a meal, or you take you just there's a quick switch that flips.
It's my PT voice. I guess also now my mom voice. It is who I am.
Well, it switched off too when the dishes aren't done either too. So, well, anyway, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about caloric deficits.
What is a caloric deficit?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Are we rushing into this already?
We're diving into it. So caloric deficit, first and foremost, let me throw some information out there for you guys. We're talking about nutrition. This is a nutritional episode. This is a topic that I alluded to in one of my newsletters about wanting to deliver some more information on. So here I am following back up, talking more about calories, nutrition, but primarily today, the topic will just be getting into a caloric deficit with kind of the idea in mind of weight loss. That's usually the topic that comes up a lot for physical therapists. Like, hey, if I do these exercises, will I lose X amount of pounds? Or if I could just lose some weight, I might be able to move better, feel better.
And you're kind of getting in my realm now. We're talking about numbers here too. You know what? A deficit, it's usually what's the difference between what's coming in and what's coming out.
That is literally it. But that concept is very challenging to totally wrap our heads around when we're talking about food and we're talking about exercise and we're talking about the way that our body operates, needing and requiring energy and food to sustain movement and activity.
And it depends on, I guess, your day-to-day activity of what that energy source in which we take in. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it. I just made that up.
No, that's literally exactly right. That kind of brings us to our first topic of basal metabolic rate. Essentially, this is, or BMR is also how it is referred to, but basically this is like your base level of energy that is required for your body to just exist and operate on a day-to-day basis. And people's BMR can vary based on their size, their height, and then, of course, the general day-to-day activities that they are doing can be factored into their BMR or their activity status, essentially.
Now, is that used more towards getting to a particular goal, or is it in the goal planning of where you want that to be?
So that is helping you set up your goal planning, essentially. It's kind of like your base level thing that you need. Without understanding or knowing what your BMR is, it's really hard for you to really understand how you can be in a deficit, right? If you don't know where you operate on just a base level, how do we know if we are eating more or eating less than what our body is expending if we don't know really kind of where we just operate on a level playing field?
And spark noted for me, or I'm sorry, spark noted for the listener, because I know what it is. What is it?
What is what?
Your basal metabolic rate? Is that what you were saying?
Oh, yeah. So
Or how do you get there to it? What's the calculation? What's the my number brain is going
so
to?
okay, this is great. This is the part here where I pause and I give a really huge disclaimer out there. I am a physical therapist. In my practice act and in my law and in everything, I don't necessarily I do not provide specific parameters to diet and diet programs. That kind of is like a little bit of a gray area. I know plenty of information about general health, nutrition, wellness, and I love to include that as a supplement to lots of the programs that I work with people on. But by and large, my background and my education is not in nutrition. I'm not a registered dietitian, right? So as far as providing specific calculations or information for individuals, I have great references and people that I would refer you to talk to and see. So I say all of that to say calculating your BMR, yeah, you can Google it. Like you can literally get on and Google a BMR calculator and you can put in your age and your height and your weight and some of those. It'll ask you about like your daily activity status, and that will kind of calculate essentially how many calories your body needs to operate on a base level. So I can't really tell you what your amount is. I mean, we could probably Google that real fast.
Remember, I know what we're talking about here. It's not for me.
Sure. But I say that to say the information that I'm providing in this episode is definitely not backed by any kind of degree, right? So take this with a grain of salt and use it more as examples or references from my own personal experiences rather than a quote unquote medical, solidified plan of care.
So how do we want to start this conversation on getting to a caloric deficit?
I think we've already dove into that to begin with. So the first step is understanding the BMR and how we get there. That's a calculation that you're going to need. For purposes of this conversation to be real easy, let's just say your basal metabolic rate is 2,000 calories. And that would be like if you just woke up and did your normal day and then came back and went to sleep, your body burned up 2,000 calories to do your day-to-day activities, okay? If you are trying to lose weight, which is a lot of people's motivation for tracking nutrition or in part of a recovery program or trying to get into new fitness, weight loss is a topic that comes up very, very frequently. So if you're trying to lose weight, we're going to need to be in that deficit like we mentioned. We know that a deficit of 3,500 calories is 1 pound of fat loss. So we can do some math there and see how many calories we need to be under to lose a pound of fat. Safe weight loss is somewhere between 1 and 2 pounds a week. So it kind of ends up being somewhere around like a 400 or 500 calorie deficit daily our bodies need to be in if we want to be having safe weight loss.
Okay. I'm trying to, again, conceptualize for the listener here because, again, I know what this, I don't know what this is. That's why I keep mentioning that. But, caloric deficit is how foreign is that to some people? Is it a new topic? Is it kind of foreign that people just aren't realizing or
I think the amount that you're asking, I definitely think it kind of rings true to say that this is the concept is maybe not necessarily foreign, but I think it's harder to understand than people initially think about because it does require some math and it does require some tracking. And that is generally where a lot of people fall into, I would say, difficulty with understanding the true why behind weight loss and how to sustain it and kind of stay in that phase.
And is it part of it too, going into the, if your local grocery store or something like that, and you're reading labels, or, tracking those calories on what you're putting into the buggy as well? Or is that kind of a start there, or?
That has a little bit to it. I think that starts to make things a little more complicated. I definitely recommend like an app to track what you're eating. I use First Form. And so you see me over there like scanning labels when I'm making meals and kind of looking at that. What I am actually checking is the macro content of those foods that I'm putting into my body.
And what is that exactly?
So macros are the macronutrients. That's carbohydrates, proteins, and fats.
Okay. So when you're planning kind of, I guess we have your base level metabolic, I didn't say that right, but base rate, we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
And now you're starting to strategically kind of plan your day of when you're going to eat and what you're going to eat at a particular time. And if you stray from that, you have, it sounds like, what an app or anything like that you can kind of put that in to kind of give you almost up to date kind of throughout your day of where you're at.
Absolutely. It tracks it right then and there throughout your day. But a lot of times that's why I'm planning things ahead. So I know, hey, if my goal is weight loss and I'm trying to lose weight, the math equation is the math equation. Like, I can't cheat it. It is what it is. So in order for me to stay positively on my weight loss track and journey, I'm going to need to make sure that I am consuming less than I'm taking in. Okay, so let's go back to that math problem for a second there. We said 2,000 calories was our base level, right? That's just for me to function. So in order for me to break even at the end of the day, I need to eat 2,000 calories. Okay? This is where it starts to get a little complicated, is if I go work out and I burn 300 or 400 calories, now I'm in, and if I just ate 2,000 calories, then I am at that, we'll say I burned 300 calories. I'm at a 300 calorie deficit, which is, if my goal is weight loss, I'm not quite where I want to be. I want to be 400 or 500 calorie deficit if I want that 1 to 2 pounds a week situation. So I probably need to adjust my food intake a little bit more and probably not toggle up my exercise a ton more. But in that particular case, I'm in that deficit. And I added that exercise, but it didn't really change too much about the diet consuming in.
Okay. But in that, that's where I guess where I need a little bit more clarification from you, is it's healthy to, be in that, well, to a point of whatever my goal particular is, to be in that deficit. But getting there, I guess, in making sure, and again, you're not a nutritionist, you're not somebody who's going to tell you have to eat these things, X, Y, and Z. But there's some base level of what I can and can't eat, or I wouldn't even say can't eat, within the realm of what my goal particularly is to get to that deficit number.
Absolutely. You can overeat, quote unquote, healthy things and gain weight.
Really?
Right? So it goes back to math. Everything that we eat has some caloric value to it. Let's just say lettuce. There's two parts to this. Number one, yes, when you're asking like good things, bad things, like eat, that's one piece of it. The other thing too is understanding the macro density of a food. There are foods that have more optimal nutrient composition than others. So let's go back to this lettuce I'm about to talk about. So lettuce, relatively speaking, lettuce is low caloric value overall. Like let's just say you get 5 calories from a leaf of lettuce, right? A big fluffy leaf of lettuce. And you're like, lettuce is healthy because it's low cal, but it doesn't offer a lot of sustaining fuel for your body. Okay. It's not necessarily very dense of those macronutrients. So it's not going to give me a lot of good positive energy moving forward to kind of push my body in the right direction for the things I need to do throughout the day. So I'm going to get hungry very quickly. So I would need to eat like a ton of lettuce to try and get more energy, but lettuce has no protein in it. And we know that protein is essential for muscle rebuilding and growth. It definitely helps satiate us, so it keeps us feeling fuller longer as it breaks down. So that quote unquote healthy lettuce doesn't necessarily have a lot of great macronutrients and is not, I would consider, not the best option if we are looking at the most optimal sources of food that's going to help provide fuel for our body, but then that's also going to help keep us satiated so we don't overeat.
Interesting. Okay, so I think I understand a little bit more of, fueling your body correctly. As we go through the day, we have, say 3 square meals a day, of being able to pick and choose those right things that are not only going to be substantial, but also fuel my body in the way that I want to do a certain things. What are some of the things that, not just with our food choices, but what gets me into that deficit? Is it exercising? Is it certain level of activity throughout the day? I feel it as though your body probably burns a certain set of calories throughout the day, no matter what you're doing, of just being awake and moving. And,
Yeah, that's your BMR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to
Now
understand.
yeah, you see
There
it,
we
yeah, you see it
go.
clicking now. You're right. Like that's your BMR. That's where your base level comes in, right? So in order for us to be in a deficit, if you eat as much calories or energy as your body needs to operate, you're going to just level out, which is where a lot of people like to be. If they're happy with their body image and where they're at, then that's fine. You eat exactly as much as your body expends. Awesome. Then if you're like, I really want to lose weight, we need to consume a little bit less, but we need to make sure that in that consuming less, we're consuming foods that have that appropriate macro profile.
And if we don't, are there certain, if we just say my goal is I want to lose X amount of pounds in the next few weeks. If I'm not fueling my body correctly, but I want to go and say, well, all this exercise that I'm doing is now going to be what the contributing factor of me losing this amount of weight of whatever my goal is. Is there concerns? Is there things of, not fueling correctly, but then exercising as well?
Oh, 100%. Like, honestly, as much of a fitness, junkie that I am, and I promote activity and health as a physical therapist, if you truly want to lose weight, this is the phrase, I guess, the catchphrase that everyone says: abs are made in the kitchen. Abs are not made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen. So if you're doing only one thing, if you're like, if I just eat almost nothing and then work out really, really hard, then I'll lose a ton of weight. Yeah, you might, and you could maybe sustain that for a very short period of time, but your body's going to crash. You're going to feel like garbage. You're going to have mental fog. You're going to be sleeping terribly. You probably are going to start breaking out or have oily skin. Like, there's so many other aspects of your life. And then that's when you enter in this realm of injury, right? Because if you're not intaking the right amount of protein, you're not recovering your tissues and building muscle the right way. So if you're working out really hard, not recovering, then that's where the muscle is going to break down and get injured. And so you're setting yourself up for failure. So we want to make sure that we're fueling the right way and we're working out to a level that helps promote that caloric deficit, but doesn't tip that over the scale. And honestly, that's where talking to a registered dietitian and nutritionist, someone that has a background and education in that whole profile, if you are really seeking help in this, that's where they come in about being a huge player in the game for you. So you're not sitting here guessing about what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, how much you should work out, because all of that adds into the equation of being stuff that can be, make or break your weight loss journey. And that can be very overwhelming.
You started this conversation saying it was an easy equation. And then we started adding things. You started talking about this. You started talking about that. It's kind of some complicated stuff, and I guess what I'm interested in, and I've seen it on my day-to-day life of, what, the how that math be mathin for you. What are some of the particular things that you did? We want to draw on your personal experience. We want to draw to make sure, hey, maybe that resonates or connects with somebody. What are some of the things that you feel has worked well for you?
I think one of the biggest things for me was looking at food as a fuel source rather than being a comfort thing, which is very, very hard for us in the Deep South to do because food is centered around, you're laughing, but you know that's true.
It's very true.
Food is centered around family and loving yourself and just all of those things. And I had to understand what the purpose of food was again. That was like first and foremost, that food is fuel. And when I started looking at it more of like a math equation than something that I quote unquote desire to do. Like, for example, how many times have I eaten those protein chips and you just will not do it because you're like, I can't eat those?
They're not the best ever, but I guess when you take it out, you go into, well, this is, I mean, it's food, but this is it's a means to an end of where I need to be for that hasn't clicked yet. Those chips, I'm not even going to say the brand. They're not very good.
Well, guys, I'm going to say the brand. I love my Quest protein chips. And I honestly kind of forgot what Lay's potato chips even taste like at this point. And I actually really love the way they taste.
You weren't a big chip eater before then.
I wasn't,
anyway.
But now I feel like I can eat chips and they fit into my, my plan, my diet, Now, of course, whole natural foods are always going to be the best option, but I also have to look at what's going to fit within my lifestyle. We could talk for days about food. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today. We'll kind of finish up on these last couple of pearls here, but for me, that was the biggest thing, was understanding that food was more of a fuel source than anything else. I would say that's number one. Number two, tracking macros, actually tracking it, because you can't lie to yourself. Like we said, the math is what it is. It is either in a deficit or it's an excess. It's one way or another. It's a positive number or a negative number. But if I lie to myself about what I'm eating, like go eat this, crumble cookie that somebody brought into the office and don't log that, and then I look at my day and I'm like, man, I had a great day. I'm in 500 calorie deficit, but then I ate this 1,200 calorie cookie or whatever the heck those crumble cookie things are. Next thing you know, like I'm actually 500 in excess. And if it takes 3,500 to lose a pound of fat, it only takes 3,500 in excess to gain a pound of fat.
That's very well. So the cake we made tonight was probably
not
the best idea.
There
was a hankering in the house.
We weren't going to talk about that live, but here we are, that funfetti cake, right? And that brings me actually to my third point. Right. So point number one, understanding that food is fuel. Point number two, actually tracking the macros. And then point number three, the 80-20 lifestyle. That's how I can operate on this, which means 80% of the time I am on my macros. I am counting everything. I am very specific about what I eat, but 20% of the time I allow myself to enjoy other things like the funfetti cake today, right? Or a Cane's chicken finger at the homecoming tailgate yesterday, right? So if I look at it that way, that is how I sustain a healthy lifestyle that allows me to kind of move and flow in what I feel's best for my lifestyle. And it's something that I find can be sustainable, especially for someone who has struggled with weight for basically my entire life. And even more so just recently after losing 30, 40 pounds and then gaining 45 pounds, having a baby, and then trying to lose it all again, right? So these big fluctuations in body image, that is how I can find solace in a healthy lifestyle where I don't feel necessarily restrictive in things. I still feel like I can enjoy celebrations and time with family, but I also am very strict in that other 80% of the time to help me get where I want to go.
Yeah, and I think that, that common ratio that you hear, the 80-20, it gets you through the day as well. Sometimes you just, days beat you up and you just need a little pick-me-up, but also, you work that into the plan of what over the week are. Throughout the week of what I'm going to eat. And, we do a pretty good job of meal prepping and that's usually what our Sundays are. Our Sundays are in between the busy lifestyles that we have, is we make sure that we're prepared for that next week, whether if it's just breakfast, both breakfast and lunch, try to keep it as stocked as much as we can with the right things, and, trying to pass that down to Delilah as well as a big factor in why we do what we do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that is really the message out there, is talking about weight loss is something that can be very uncomfortable. And in reality, it's a very simple thing that we definitely have a lot of emotions, a lot of baggage, a lot of things that get tied up with it. And at the end of the day, just reminding everyone that it does take time, it takes planning, it takes an understanding of what fuel is, what food is, and how that's used for our body. And then at the end of the day, understanding that it is really a simple excess and deficits that help us get to where we want to be. And if we can take a step back and look at things a little bit more black and white, it can help us feel like the goal and the decision for weight loss is a little bit more achievable or attainable than we maybe originally thought, if we're staring at all of this, propaganda, if you will, of healthy lifestyle, healthy eating, diets, what to do, what not to do. When it all comes down to it, having that information, I think, is really what will help the individual meet their goals and find their personal victories.
I think that's some valuable information for everybody, for me included. We talk about it enough in our household to, sometimes it's in one ear and out the other, but I still overall, I think we do a pretty good job of, what we're doing and meeting the goals that we have, especially for you and what you're trying to do. So positive all messages there. You just got to get the 80-20 is giving yourself a little bit of grace, and then kind of, being prepared for whatever comes next. So is there anything else that we need to include? Anything else that you feel like you didn't include?
No, I think that's it, guys. I'm certain if something else comes up, we'll just pop on here again and make another episode, because of course, we love talking to you and we love bringing information and personal stories directly to your ears.
See you next time.
All right, guys, remember, be victorious. Thanks for joining us today. If you want to learn more about working with Victory, whether it's through personalized physical therapy programs, group therapeutic exercise classes, performance training, or recovery and maintenance programs, follow us on Instagram at Rebecca Trulette PT and at Welcome to the Victory Club, or check us out online at www.movewithvictory.com.